good evening, you guys. Thank you for coming on. We are talking the state of the country. So, earlier this week, we saw some things transpire in Washington, D.C. And my first question is really, let's look at how Donald Trump's presidency has gone and how it's ending. Um, do you feel like this is something that could have been prevented?
It definitely was the Trump show. Could it have been prevented? Well, we already knew what he was about when he first started on and back in 2015. We already knew it was going to be a mess. Did we know it was going to end the way it was going to end? Unfortunately, that's what was going to happen. To every Shakespearean play, it always starts off, the way it starts off, and it always ends in tragedy. And unfortunately, that's exactly what we saw the last couple of days ago. We saw exactly what he told us we was going to see, and that was American carnage. And that's what he said in his speech, and that's exactly what we saw a couple of days ago. Let's go back. When Obama was in office back in 2008, after 2010, we started seeing the Tea Party brewing. Remember that?
Yeah.
And this is people with a lot of hatred, bile, Unfortunately, it almost could have gave us Sarah Palin, Imagine that.
Yeah.
She was Trump before Trump. So this is the stuff that it was already brewing. And then unfortunately, Trump took the mantle. He used the marketing skills that he had. And, he fell into this role of a demagogue and, authoritarian figure in his own right, and pretty much exacerbated what already existed in the confines of America for the last couple of years. It already existed. He just expedited it, gave it a platform, and this is what we got.
Right.
He said it. He said exactly what it was, American carnage.
This was a roller coaster, and we knew how it was going to end from day one. One thing about Trump, he forecasts what's going to happen, and it happens. He really doesn't mince his word. He said he wasn't leaving without a fight. The thing that I don't think we really accept from him is what he says is what he does. And I understand his followers, why they love him, because what he says is what he does. And he said he wasn't leaving, he wasn't giving up, and he didn't. And we saw the ugly result of it 2 days ago.
I've repeated this statement over and over again. Trump is America. It's a mirror of itself. He's the human form.
All right, so he went into the White House and he had really no ideology, right? He was shocked that he won. He got in. He was there to make money, make his family more lucrative, his family business, so to speak. And the Republicans used him to get their policies done. So in that sense, he was a man of his word. Okay, but it's like what's this, a contradiction of term, because he's also a pathological liar. So on one hand, he'll follow through on his promises, but on the other hand, he's lying literally with every breath that he takes. But within that line, there's consistency, because when he lies, he's projecting the truth of the person that hurt him or went against him. And he will follow through if it's to his benefit, if you understand what I mean. So if you're gonna follow him, you got to understand that the craziness is real, and if he says something, he's gonna follow through with it. And if you turn your back on him, he's gonna get rid of you. And that's what the people that rock with him are starting to see now, that he has been who he's been from day one. And I'm not surprised.
That's for sure. But did the Republicans use him, or did he use the Republicans? Because I do recall a time that he stated that that particular party was like the dumbest people on earth. And that if he was ever become president, whether he was bullcrapping or not, that was the party he was going to run with. So I kind of feel like in some point, I think they used each other in certain aspects. But I think they didn't expect him to go to the level that he went to. As far as his pathological line and the person that he is, which means he's loyal to no one.
Okay, so are you saying that as long as Trump was president, there was no way that this could have been prevented.
No,
No
not
way.
at all. Not at all.
No way.
Okay. So, do you feel like this situation that just happened in Washington, D.C., them storming the Capitol, do you feel like this has opened the eyes of people who voted for Trump again? Do you feel like this has, you know what I mean, had any reflection on them whatsoever to say, oh my gosh?
Um, open their eyes. No, this hasn't opened their eyes. Look, this in the confines of 74 million that voted for him, which is shocking. All right, you got the second highest votes in American history. Right? If you think about that, that's a lot to unpack. This is going to take a while to analyze. I haven't fully analyzed yet, and I haven't come with a full blown conclusion. But what I do know, this is a cult. This is called cult of personality. So all these people are rallying behind one man. This is not allegiance to the Constitution. I don't even know if you realize when they were, when the anarchists, it looked like a scene from, the Batman movie with Bane, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he released all of the
Mm-hmm.
finale, when he released all the criminals and stuff like that, and it was pure anarchy, right? That's the same thing that happened that day. It was an anarchy. They was about to take down the American flag, right? And put down the Trump flag. That tells you everything you need to know that that's a cult.
These people are following an ideology. They don't care about policies or anything. Nobody's going to do nothing to them. Look at the people in Washington. They were led out of the building. They weren't forced out. They were led out. They were asked to leave. These people know nothing going to happen to them.
I kind of feel like if those people didn't get it the whole time, this man has been in here for 4 years. Honestly, like if they haven't got it by now, they were never going to get it, nor did they care, because we do live in a country where people only care about what's a problem for them.
Yep.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't care about the overall spectrum. They don't care what cause. As long as it doesn't affect their bottom line.
As long as it doesn't affect them, man. Yeah, I agree.
Their bottom line, as long as it doesn't affect their bottom line, they do not care.
They do not care.
As long as their families and stuff are not in harm's way, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous.
Sure, these people don't care. They're so messed up in their thinking. I was seeing some clip from Fox News, and these people are starting to point like, look, it's the Antifa people. They're the ones who are in the building. Yet still, these people are on camera telling where they live, who they are, and what they did. There were one guy telling you, I kicked the door down and I sat in the chair of that bitch and excuse my language, and all that craziness. These people they don't care. They don't care. But if it was the Black Lives Matter people doing it, oh, look at them, look at them, look at them. You know what's funny to me? And this is why I sit down and I laugh, because Trump is everything they thought Barack Obama would be.
Here's the thing. With 12 days left, I believe it is. The Democrats are asking for the 25th Amendment. Pence would have to start that to get him out, or they're going to impeach him. They're going to fast track impeachment. And if they do that, I think that solidifies him from ever running again. The bottom line is, if you really think of it, right, I'm engaged in a argument right now with a Facebook guy, and people are not understanding this. The entire U.S. government was in the Capitol building, right? The vice president, all of the House of Representatives, all of the Senate. The only person not there was Trump. So had those people gone in and done damage, the United States is excuse the language, because everybody's now scrambling from every state to get things back. That is the most egregious thing that he could have ever done. And thankfully, it didn't turn out worse. So anybody in their right mind that doesn't see how awful that was, I can't even really argue with you, because you don't get it.
In my opinion, there's two kind of people that follows Trump. You have the people that get the tax break. Mm-hmm. However, the people that you see storming the building, they're working off an idea. Somebody's out to get us. they're the problem, the Dems, the this, the that, the communists. That's what give those people their lift, man. They just want to kill the others. They just want to hurt the others.
Mhm.
However, the people that you see storming the building, they're working off an idea. Somebody's out to get us. There's the others, they're the problem, the Dems, the this, the that, the communists. That's what give those people their lift, man. They just want to kill the others. They just want to hurt the others.
What role do you feel social media and the media, the news channel, have to play with this? I mean, we've been pumping Trump news for 4 years straight, almost empowering that rhetoric, so to speak, right? Every channel you turn on, everything is all Trump news. So, what role do you feel like social media and the news has played in this?
Well, you know, period. Propaganda is a driving force, and that goes from every country besides ours. Um, they're gonna pump ideologies and things they want us to believe, and not do our own research, because we have a lot of people that tend not to do their own research, and people are lazy, and people are not going to look into things. So what happens is we have our phones in our hands for 24 hours. Not all,
Yeah.
but majority of the time, because for some of us it's necessities, whether it comes to work, we have kids, we have this, or whatever the case may be. And it's a power tool. All of it, it's a power tool. Um, they want us, they drown us from even want us, they drown us from even mentally wanting to go look for the truth. Because it's like this is what we're telling you, this is in your face, this is what it is. There's nothing other than this. And it's like, no, if you know better, you know that's completely bullshit. Excuse my language, but completely bullshit. You
Okay.
know, I don't know. There's a lot of people that speak on conspiracy theories, and it gives everyone an opinion, which in a lot of cases is a good thing, but it's a horrible thing.
The media hasn't played well. They should have been taking the camera off of Trump. Trump has been spreading misinformation, bile, hate. We need to renew the situation where media needs to directly point out facts when they are facts. In the last 4 years, they failed at that, and they just started implementing that. Fact checking him on in real time, which to me is unheard of. That should have never happened before. But the media should have stopped giving him coverage the way they did, and social media definitely needs to be reformed. And given some type of guidelines on what people can say and do. Yeah, some people may say that you're taking away some of their, constitutional rights, the freedom of speech. Not per se. If you're lying about COVID, saying that masks don't protect you, or saying lies about vaccines or whatever it is, or whatever you're saying that's negative and it's not true, it can cost lives. As we can see right now, it can cost division. It can create more division. So social media should definitely be reformed over time. I think they will. I think there will be some guidelines.
Moving
We have no choice. I mean, this should have been done a long time ago. You don't have to. You don't have to me. You don't have the right to lie to people, to incite fear, hate, and division further than what we already had. Now it's exploded. We literally could have broke the system. Imagine if Trump was clever, right? What if he was smart? What if he was like Negan from Walking Dead?
Right.
He said, "I am Negan." Remember that?
Yeah.
And all those thousands of people followed him, and he was very clever in how he manipulated and controlled people. Imagine this guy was that. He literally could have turned this to and broke democracy. He would have made this to me a dictatorship.
So Mark Zuckerberg is saying, as of Facebook is concerned, they've decided that they're going to indefinitely delete him, cancel him off of there, right? Because they finally believe now they believe that
Yep.
he's using his
Mhm.
platform to provoke violence, right? Intentionally so.
No,
Because
that's
he's
a
going to
big
be
one.
gone in a few days and he won't have that impact anymore. So now is the time to say, see, we did something about it. That's all it is.
Yeah, No, you know what? It's a good thing because remember, social media is brand new to us, and there are no laws that really govern them. They're kind of making this thing up on the fly. So Trump has taken them to the end of the cliff and said, "Hey, I will jump, and you guys will follow." So he's given them the roadmap to 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 guidelines. How far are we going to allow people with power and influence to go in terms of what they can say and who will follow them? So therefore, yeah, I know it's the end, but you still have to make that statement of shutting him down because there's going to be somebody after him in the future. And with the government, I think they should impeach him again because you can't let it happen and go unchecked.
Yes, sir.
I don't care if
Yes, sir.
they're 2 days left. You
I agree.
have to do something because people I'm debating with, they're not getting it. The United States could have gone under had those guys
Oh
gotten
yeah.
to those people. That was all of our representation in one spot. And what's mind-boggling to me is two things came to light. I remember 9/11. I'm like, you telling me that they didn't have guns ready to shoot airplanes out of the sky? Oh, okay, all right. So the protection level that I think we have, we don't have. At the Capitol building, they just freaking walked in by knocking out the windows. Where the guys with the big Uzis and I was totally in shock. It was like watching a movie. I was like, this can't be real. This cannot be real. So we think we're protected. We're not.
It's like I said earlier. I think Zuckerberg is just trying to say, hey, look, I did something about it. Now that this guy is not going to be there to give them enough press coverage for them to make money anymore. So it's like, just like Trump, he started to throw Pence under the bus because he's saying that Pence is weak. It's the same thing I think Zuckerberg is doing. He's just like, look, this clown show is not going to be around anymore. So let me show the people that at least I'm doing something.
So, how do you feel right now about foreign governments' perception of our country? Like, how do you feel? Because this is worldwide news, right? So, I mean, it's been a laughing game on many, many occasions before this, but with it coming out the way that it is, how do you feel foreign government is perceiving us right now?
They're probably looking at the situation as, what's happened in America. They probably think we're hypocritical. They're probably looking at it as weak, deeply divided, and not the nation that is an example for democracy to them anymore. Thank God there's some mature adults overseas, and there's a lot of world leaders that understand that we definitely went through something that probably is an asterisk in history and it should never have happened. But democracy is just that fragile. If you lie to people enough, and if you give them hope and some false hope, they'll vote for you. And especially if you're speaking their language. Trump spoke the language of white grievances and some of their fears of the division of the nation. And look at your nation. It's getting more diverse. You're going to be superior. You're going to be the minority soon. He was speaking their language. So this is the reason why he incited that much fear that they came out to vote for a Democrat.
We're a laughing stock right now. People that we cause misery on their end, we're laughing stocks to them right now because we're not as strong as this country portrayed.
And so like everything else, right? Here's the state that we're in. Think about it this way, right? The country is split in two. It has become evident even to the GOP that they had a clown leading them. Okay, a guy that wasn't deserving of the position, right? That has become clear. The world has seen it. To me, it's almost like the Super Bowl, right? You root for your team, the other side root for their team, and 2 years later, it goes back to normal. You know what I mean? So Biden is the perfect guy for this because he's very calm. He's gonna just speak to the issue. No histrionics, no craziness, and the vaccine comes and we get back. It's gonna be back to normal, but we're going through it right now. So their opinion is valid, but their opinion is really reflective on that individual who led us for 4 years and the wounds that he opened up. It's almost like family business became exposed to the world. But us being the outside child, the adopted one, it's
That's a
good that it
for
was
sure.
exposed.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
folks don't think that, the propaganda that they sell out there is the real. So Trump
Yes.
opened up the ugly family business of the United States. We're happy for
Yes.
it because the rest of the world sees it. But let's not get it twisted. The USA is still the USA. And we will be back to perceived prominence as soon as he's
Yes.
gone and things are
Of course.
established. But right now, yeah, they're looking at us like, oh, they got problems too.
I think it just shows what could have been in terms of the taking of the capital. I think this had to lead to somebody paying attention. Like, whoa, this could have ended badly. So I'm saying I don't think they're gonna allow this to happen. If Trump, think about it, if Trump was like Pence, quiet dude, just get stuff done, would be in deep doo doo, man. But the guy, but because the guy talks so much, as when
Yeah.
was it Langley said it, the guy he tells his thing. Oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this, and he does. He does.
Here's a trick. So what he has done is he has set the template for someone smarter than him to
Yes.
come in
Yes.
and wreak havoc. All right.
Yes.
So I'm hoping lawmakers and people who follow will go in there and tighten up the reins. The thing that I was pleased with is democracy did win, because when his nonsense against the election went to the courts, they shot it down. And in
And it was
his
his
deranged
people.
mind, he thought that since he appointed, you're right, he thought that, but that's not how justice, just for some of us, right?
Yeah.
How it works. So therefore, the system did work. Our government system does work because of the triangle and the checks and balances that it has. But he did lay down the groundwork for future shenanigans. If they don't put some of these, they need to somehow tighten the reins on the executive branch, because he got away with too much. He habitually line step, and they turn the other way and they let him go. And someone in the future is going to say, oh, well, he did it. And if they allow him to get away with it, like my man said, we could be in a whole lot of crapola.
Do you think they finally realized that money doesn't fix everything? Do you think we came to that realization? You don't think we came to that realization yet?
Trump been a criminal so long. In his opinion, he's not doing anything wrong. Guy could always buy his way out of whatever trouble he's in. So in his opinion, he's not doing anything wrong.
But money didn't buy him out of this one.
Right.
No.
Nor did it.
But he hasn't paid a price yet, right? So technically, he's still winning. If nothing happens to him after he leaves, guess what? He won.
Well,
because he did everything he wanted to do.
That's why you're absolutely right. But that's why my statement when we first started this was, he's America.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's the clear representation of America. You do a whole bunch of bullshit.
Trump
and you
just
hide your
showed
hands and go in your pockets, and there's no penalty for it.
Trump just exposed the underbelly of America. That's a fact.
Right. And the bigger the crime, the less of the time. That's how it works.
To piggyback off of the government, I just want to say, like, the transgressions for this past week or what happened Wednesday, I just think Trump, he spoke to the heart of the undercover America, which is the timid bigots and all those type of people. And I felt like it was that microscope that we've been like, racism ain't here. It's done. Since Barack Obama from 2008 to 2016, we're good. Nah, we were never out the water. You understand? And honestly, we need a whole revamp of the government outside of not just to isolate the executive branch. I'm talking about all throughout, because what was seen on Wednesday was an utter embarrassment of a nation, of a government, because like I said before, and I put this on a post, which I didn't want to say anything on social media because that can be oversaturation of just information. Everybody's just, you know. But I just feel like if obviously we know we were black. If they were black, it would be different. It would be a bloodbath. We'll get that, right? But it's just a matter of why does it have to be like that? Why such a divide, right? And that comes from, I feel like, as far as the government setup, whereas it just takes the power away from us, the citizens, the people who are directly affected by this incompetence, right? And I think without contrition with Donald Trump, I just think it was a sad day because it was just a matter of children seeing that, children watch that, and think of the type of world we live in today where everything is instantaneous, information, misinformation, social media, right? So it leaves me worried more so than anything for what's to come with Biden and Kamala Harris, because we thought everything was done when Barack Obama was in office, then, you know what I'm saying? But it's just a matter of that happened June, January, 7th or 5th, 6th, like 5 days into the new year. And we have like this insurrection. I don't know. I'm just as a person who was born and raised in this country, I'm vehemently upset. I'm disappointed, and a lot has to be done. Do I know what needs to be done? Like as far as the steps? Absolutely not, because I'm just going off of sheer emotion and just utter embarrassment. But it's just a matter of we need a full revamp. Watching them parade around in that house with a fucking Confederate flag, that pissed me off, because the amount of people that were affected during the Black Lives Matter movement, me being one of those people out there protesting, essentially putting my life on the line because of the color of my skin, and to watch that pissed me off. That pissed me off.
What happened in Georgia was on the other end of the spectrum from what we experienced on Wednesday, right? A black man and a Jewish man got voted into the Senate. That's phenomenal. Okay,
that is.
That's phenomenal.
It was an amazing story. Look, you know how hard it is to unseat a sitting senator? Like Perdue was a sitting senator. He's an old guy, and they normally never lose their seat. Look, Lindsey Graham. Look at Mitch McConnell. You know, look at Ted Cruz. Like these people don't even lose their seats. And look, Beto O'Rourke was an attractive candidate that went against Ted Cruz. Looked like a rock star. You know, had said the right things, and he got defeated. What I'm trying to say is that if we didn't know about all the negatives in what exists in our America today, right, we would never have voted the right people in, you know? And that Georgia race to me is remarkable. You have to give credit to Stacey Abrams, you know? Sometimes you got to take a couple steps back to move full-fledged forward, you know?
And remember this, the party that's in power, and they were in power and they used up every bit of it. They did everything they wanted to do, right? The problem with Democrats is we play the good guy. We try to play by the rules and we try to do things the right way. So our growth and our showing off, so to speak, takes time. It blossoms and it blooms later, right? So we're always in the position of planting the seed and seeing a little bit of a growth here, a little bit of a growth there, where they're in your face hard and fast. I think Trump was an anomaly. He was the rare guy that at the end of it pissed off everybody, even his own people, okay? Because he exemplified the best that they wanted, because they got everything they wanted, and the absolute worst of everything. So I think what's to come is better, because think back in our minds, we now think Bush was okay. And like we would do anything to have Bush back in house.
That's
Right?
crazy.
When at that time we were probably going, oh, he's terrible, he's the worst. But right now, 100 times over 100, we would take him over Trump. So I think Trump was the worst of the worst, and it can only get better from here, because they stormed the Capitol building, and we saw what it could have been. So there is hope. Even it's like the storm, and now it gets really peaceful, gets really calm, and we're gonna get back to rocking and rolling and leading the
But
world.
Mr. Langley, don't you think like we always hope. Like, that's the thing. I think that's like the main problem and the frustration. We're always hoping when we need stuff done now. We have to play their game as well.
It's about the growth of Black folks in America. And my point was that, we're a long way off from the starting line. The 60s is pretty much when we got our rebirth from the time of Reconstruction. So you were saying, is all we have is hope. It's really all you can have when you don't have much else. You know what I mean? I mean, it is the only thing that's going to get you through. As bad as it may seem, remember, folks before us had it worse, and they got us to this point. So we got to maintain the hope to get us over the hump, because it's going to be better, but it might not be in our lifetime. It might be in our grandkids, our great grandkids, but we got to keep fighting through. And if hope is the only thing we have, then that's the only thing we're going to have to live off until we get there. Although we might not see it, but we're going to be all right, because we're in the fight.
I think one of the biggest trouble in this thing is the way politics is practiced throughout the world. It become more of a tribalistic behavior opposed to a service to the people. For example, you got people who are just Democrats, it doesn't matter what. You got people who are Republican, it doesn't matter what. It's the same thing in Jamaica. You got the PMP, you got the JLP. I know people there, JLP, it doesn't matter what. I don't think it should be like that. You should vote for a policy that affect your life in some positive way or another. I think that's how it should be. So if the Republican guy is offering something that's beneficial to me and mine, I would vote for him. If the Democratic guy is doing the same, I would vote for him. And I think that's how politics should be.
Okay, so do you feel like with our new, turn of power, with what just happened, which is they didn't just stand outside and protest, should Kamala Harris and Joe Biden be fearful of the fact that people can just come up in here?
First and foremost, we have to question, how was that even able to happen the last couple of days? What power on top made people look the other way? Because you cannot even infiltrate the Capitol that way. That's never happened before since, like, what somebody said, the War of 1812 or something like that. Look, they are not going to be unfair. This is going to be a smooth transition of power. I'm quite sure they're going to put all the security protocol in place. They shouldn't be worried about that. What we should be concerned about is who infiltrated our government the way they did and allowed this to happen. Was it Trump who put his hand on the dial and told some higher up officials to not stop these rioters and extremists from entering the Capitol?
Personally, I think it was allowed. They were hanging out. They were chit-chatting in the hallways.
I find that very hard to believe because we lost 5 people to that. So the fact that if it was allowed, that's opening the floodgates to what they call, the government calls, a collateral damage. So if they're cool with that, then I don't know.
You don't think that we've had?
I don't think so.
You don't think that we had collateral damage on many occasions?
I mean, of course,
the
9/11
US,
was bad.
you know what I mean?
That was a bad trip deal.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's possible.
I agree to an extent. I just think, I mean, it was just that egregious to me. The fact that they were able to parade in a building, you feel me, and go unscathed, like it was just mind-boggling. Like, and the fact that if we were there, it was just crazy, because having been in that type of setting where you protest and you do all those things, I've done that for years, right? And then to see that, and then having been pushed back by cops, physically pushed, right? And then them just, what was the image that sticks in my head since this happened? There was a dude that was trying to go through the window and the dude was just pointing a gun. Like that shit, like just imagine, Sean, like just imagine, like that broke my heart. Like that was just like America turned its back essentially on our pigmentation. We are less than 3/5 of the man we're lesser than that. And it's just like, now what you said right there, Devin, that was a great point, because it was white privilege personified. Like that was
Yes.
evident.
Sure.
So I definitely
Sure.
agree with you there.
I think
It's
Joe
just
Biden.
disheartening.
I think Joe Biden and Kamala should be extremely worried.
No, because from what I understand, the Pentagon was restricted in their ability to deploy forces to respond to what happened in the Capitol. So basically what that suggests is the president, whether directly or indirectly, prevented a bigger response to that riot, right? So when you have a different commander in chief involved, that's a whole different story. And if in that case, when someone in the Pentagon doesn't respond, in this situation, there's nobody to hold accountable because the buck stops at Donald Trump. And if he's holding nobody accountable and nobody's getting in trouble. In the case of having a different commander in chief, if, say, for example, the Pentagon doesn't respond and Joe Biden's the president, then Joe Biden is held accountable in ways that Trump isn't being at this point. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Okay, I want to share this video with you guys.
So I'll ask you the question this way. How do you think police would have responded differently had this been a Black Lives Matter protest?
I don't have to think, I know. I remember in 2014 when the police declared it illegal to stand still with their 5-second rule. So we literally walked in circles. We certainly would never have been allowed to storm a federal building. This is due to the complicity of elected officials, of appointed officials, of media platforms, certainly of law enforcement that, to be clear, did not just stand by while these things happened and provided, as was said, an unprofessional response. We have video of several law enforcement officers actually encouraging, participating, and permitting these activities, opening barricades, taking selfies with these insurrectionists. We have to be very, very precise here about exactly what happened. It wasn't just that the police stood by and did nothing, is that some of them actually encouraged and participated in activity that was a direct violation of the Constitution and was a clear example of domestic terrorism. This is the literal example of white supremacy. What does white supremacy mean? It means that white people believe that they have dominion over everybody and dominion over everything, that they are in fact supreme. So we saw a group of white people, of white supremacists here, thinking that they own a country that they colonized, and therefore they can do whatever they want with it. They think they can storm any building in that country because they believe they own it. They think that they can erect a noose on the side of a building that was built by enslaved Africans in America because they think they have full permission to do so, and did so on camera because they knew the police would do nothing about it. This is the literal example of white supremacy. What does white supremacy mean? It means that white people believe that they have dominion over everybody and dominion over everything, that they are in fact supreme. So we saw a group of white people, of white supremacists here, thinking that they own a country that they colonized, and therefore they can do whatever they want with it. They think they can storm any building in that country because they believe they own it. They think that they can erect a noose on the side of a building that was built by enslaved Africans in America because they think they have full permission to do so, and did so on camera because they knew the police would do nothing about it.
It was well said. I mean, that on Brian Williams, I've seen her talk multiple times. It's well said. She's absolutely right. These are white extremists. This is white nationalists. This is something back in the Civil War. You know, this reminds me of the Confederate States trying to take over the North and stuff like that, which they failed miserably, and they failed miserably the other day the same way. Democracy obviously is something that we have to continue to work at for it to survive. It requires a collective effort of people that are like-minded individuals to make sure that we keep it. What we saw here what Trump did over the last 4 years could have broke democracy. It literally came close, you know? Yeah. The only concern that I really do have is that he literally created Trumpism, which is going to outlast his presidency. So we have a lot more work to do. She is absolutely right. And this is what I go back to the book Cast, you know? A lot of constitutionally, there's things in there that, why is it that a white person in America, the white American, is not afraid of the cops. You know what I mean? Because there's certain things certain protections in there, in the Constitution, the confines of the Constitution, that's not explicit per se, you know, and it still exists to this day. And that's what the book Caste explains explicitly, that exists. And this is the reason why they get away with some of the things they get away with.
She spoke so much truth in that video, you know what I mean? And I think it goes without saying, and we've heard this a million times on every media platform, from everybody from white people, from media casters to athletes to politicians. Hell, Lindsey Graham, who's about as big of a hypocrite and bigot as they come, even said that if Black Lives Matter had done that, they'd have gotten a different response from the Capitol Police or local police forces than this riot did. So, you know, I think a lot of that is just self-evident from how this all played out. I think really the only questions or I guess feelings I have about this is the question's already asked, why weren't they held accountable? Why were they even allowed to leave? But how are these people going to be prosecuted after the fact? You know what I mean? For me, it's all the situation is said and done, how it played out. Now I want to see charges being delegated out. You know what I mean? Just like that's
like
really
like the fact that they're like, can you help us find these people? That was just baffling. Like I was just totally flummoxed. Like if they can find Jamal within like 48 hours,
right.
they can fucking find Earl. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just crazy. You know what I'm saying? So
for me,
you hit it on the head. Like
for me, it puts even greater responsibility on this next administration. I don't want to hear how difficult it is. I want Trump held accountable. I want every single person that was involved in inciting that riot to be held accountable. I want all them Facebook accounts that was organizing this riot to be held accountable. I want every single person that showed up, that was on camera, showed their face, no mask on. I want that's what I pay my tax dollars for you to find every single one of them and prosecute them.
So, I mean, let's talk about this two America ideology, right? So that there's Black American and there's white America. I mean, just look at the statements that she pretty much just made. She touched on laws and government and the fact that there are two Americas, so to speak. So do you feel like this has opened the eyes of anyone else outside of Black America?
Because my answer to that is absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Absolutely not. The events could have happened in synchronous. There could have been an event where Black people were peacefully protesting the same day, right? That could have been superimposed on television with this event taking place, same time, same place. And there was still going to be people, I don't care if they were Spanish, because to make this real clear, the leader of the Proud Boys, which is the organization that in large part organizes, is Latino, right? He's a Latin guy from Florida. So it's not just white people, first and foremost. And there was Black people in that group too, shouting, Black lives don't matter. You know what I mean? So what it really comes down to, and it reminds me of this quote from this psychiatrist, this guy who's basically like invented a lot of the concepts that a lot of psychiatrists use today. What he said was, people will do anything to hide from their own soul. And what he meant is that, and this kind of speaks to the whole two different Americas and what kind of supports the premise of white supremacy, is that there's some people, it don't matter what facts you present. It don't matter what context or arguments you know what I mean, articulate, or different ways you explain it or present it to them. It doesn't matter if they're exposed to it or live through it. There's just some people who are not going to accept truths that contradict what they believe to be their identity. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's going to be, it could be Spanish people, it could be white people, it could be Black people. There's some people that's just not, it don't matter, you know what I mean? And so in that regard, the people who believe in Trump, it doesn't matter what arguments or examples or facts you present to them or they're presented with, until they can shift through whatever that internal struggle and that leads them to that belief, these examples are not going to change that. You know what I mean? And I think you'll continue to have those dynamics until, I don't know what the until is, but I think the way you start that is by really identifying that this is terrorism. that these beliefs are terrorism. You know what I mean? It's not about me convincing you to not support terrorism. It's about you doing prison time for supporting terrorism. You know what I mean? It's not about me convincing you that Black Lives Matter. It's about you doing prison time for killing Black people or discriminate. It's about you losing your job for discriminating against Black people. You know what I mean? So for me, it's less about the awakening the consciousness of America and more about codifying discrimination for what it is. You know what I mean?
It won't change anything because if you notice, every single time they either change the messaging or they just double down. So all we have is hope and keep plucking away, keep voting. That's all we got. And over time, things will level off. But right now, we're at the core of what America really is, and she has been exposed. But at the same time, we see how ugly it is. We can't give up hope.
So do you feel like Black America generally has made any progress or milestones this year at all? I mean, we've shown in a way that is amazing and grand on a scale. Like, what progress do you feel that we've made then?
No, I was just going to say, we were able to get an in-depth view of, if you didn't know politics before or you didn't pay attention to it.
Absolutely.
It was definitely highlighted at this point in time. You viewed the in and outs. I felt like a lot of people did a lot more research, did a lot more hearsay, because they wanted to know the information. I feel like in certain aspects, we did come together on something and agree on something, which does give me the hope factor that it can move on to things bigger and better. We were supportive of each other, like I mentioned earlier before we started the video. Stacey Abrams is a big deal down here. I came down here and just being able to see the togetherness of everyone that looks like us and some that don't look like us was an amazing aspect for me, especially coming from New York. Because it's like you don't, in certain aspects, you don't get to see that all the time. Or we dealing with our daily struggles or daily every day, we always at each other's throats. So it was kind of good to see some good togetherness.
I think some things we got to put in context about this past year too is the largest organized protest in modern history took place because of Black people, right? Protesting the unjust murdering of a Black man, you know what I mean? And that didn't just end in the city that it ended, it spread across the country, spread across the world, you know what I mean? You had Black people protest and shut down the entire NBA as a result of that, seeking justice. And what that brought forth was owners needing to invest in setting up voting facilities, enabling citizens in oppressed and marginalized communities to have more resources to vote and more information about voting. And you had Stacey Abrams going around to different states, not just in Georgia, to facilitate, the development of resources so more Black people specifically who were discriminated against could vote. You know what I mean?
Texas is next.
Texas, it was in Texas, it was in Michigan, it was in Florida, it was in Georgia, it was in a lot of different states, Virginia. And as a result of that, you got Joe Biden as president. Without Stacey Abrams and that Fair Fight organization, you don't have Joe Biden as president. We don't even have, without that, we don't have this riot that just took place because they don't have anything to riot about.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So the fact of the matter is the riot occurred because of the progress. You know what I mean?
Right. I didn't even get to cheer my ass off because they were busy rioting.
Right.
That's
right.
So
the proof is in the pudding and the evidence is there. All these people worked up and angry because of it.
So my thing is, there is two Americas, and we have to have more of a message of unity, because there's a lot of people that want to be good than bad, you know? There's always going to be outliers. You can name it in any community for sure. But, you know, we have to put that genie back in the box. These people are, you know, like I said, they shouldn't have gotten a platform the way they did. But the two America thing that, you know, that does exist is true. And we have a lot more work to bridge those gaps to make sure that it's a unified America versus a two America, you know?
I want to say this one thing because I said it to my dad and it was just like, what? And it's real. I told him, like, listen, like the fact that, and I still have that vision, that visual of the officer pointing the gun at the dude trying to break through the window. And I told him they're not going to shoot a white man on national television. They're not going to do that. And as radical as that may seem, as outlandish as that may seem, it's not, because the optics is kind of like what Devin said. Like it's white privilege. It's at its apex, if you will. They are not going to do that. And it's just like we'll see with Biden and Kamala Harris. I mean, like you said, Lee, we're going to hold them accountable as well because they promised a lot. I listened to him on CNN today talk about how we need to do this, we need to do that. Okay, we need to do it. So let's see you proceed and execute it. I'm tired, even back in 2008 with Barack Obama now, promised a lot. I still want to see that manifest. And say what we will about, and I'm glad Agent Orange is on his way out, but I will say this, he did open a box of like, listen, you don't like what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it anyway. So maybe in that regard, we need to be more mindful of who we put in these positions. So that way we know, okay, this is what you said, this is what you're going to deliver on. Because we, the people, have the power. So why not manifest that? So it's just a matter of, again, to piggyback what everyone said, it's just a matter of just, as you said too, Mr. Langley, being hopeful.
Yeah. That's it. That's all we got.
You know, accountability, like hopeful, but an accountability as well. Like Mr. Biden, you talk a good game. You can talk,
remember,
that, but it's just like, hey, show improve now. Like politics.
But he doesn't do it on his own. That's the problem. Our system of government, like their job for the next 4 years is to deny. So most of what he's probably, we do have both houses, although it's narrow margins. So there's a greater chance, but you know, we can't they don't just campaign and make promises and then go ahead and do it. It doesn't work that way. So here's what I want to see from them. I want to see them go for the big ticket items, right? Go for the big ticket items. And that, to me, if you start early, you got a better chance because you can always bring it back if it gets defeated early. But go for the big ticket items. What they are, I can't even say because there's so many damn issues.
I'll tell you one of them. He said one of the big ticket ones. I'm sorry, brother. He mentioned was the vaccine. If that's going to be the big ticket item, I want to see that. Like, it's just a matter of we can talk, like just like how we're talking now, and we discussed a couple months ago, like, oh, we got to do this, we got to galvanize and come together. We just talking, right? So I'm just saying, as far as the politics, we have to, like, let's put it into action now. Like,
here's what you're gonna see. Mark my words. Here's what you're gonna see. On January 21st, you're gonna see a massive rollout through the National Guards, whatever the soldiers are, and they're gonna mobilize units across America, and they're gonna unload vaccines everywhere, which is what should have been done. And that's gonna be his statement to, we're gonna put this behind us and try to get back to some sense of normalcy. If we see that right away, I'm gonna text you on that day. We can say, we got it. We're on the roll.
I want to see a mobile medic van outside of my crib, and I want to be like, can I get a vaccine? All right, can I get a lollipop?
That's how it's gonna go down. I'm telling you, they're gonna have food trucks giving vaccines. I'm telling you.
Listen, I'm all for it, brother. I'm just about kind of like what Lee was saying, like show and prove, holding them accountable. We put them in office, we put them in this position of power. Now it's time to show and prove. The people are tired.
I
We're
think the
tired of mediocrity.
biggest priorities for this administration, because really you got to think of it almost in 2-year stints. Right now they auditioning for these midterm elections. So what's the biggest
Right.
priority going into midterms? In my mind,
Mm-hmm.
number one and number two priorities is, to your point, your response to the pandemic, which is vaccines and small business loans and help for people who are unemployed. And secondary to that is all of the things you promised about election policies and election laws and election holidays. That needs to be your number 1B priority, right? Because if you're saying that all of these groups was marginalized in all these communities, now's your time to show and prove that those bills you tried to get across, you actually intend to pass. And then from there, that opens the door for a lot of this progress we're talking about, because a lot of these states like Texas, like Georgia, like Alabama, they're not really Republican states. It's just those communities are so disenfranchised and either don't have funding for voting booths, and so the lines is crazy long, or it's just set up in ways that's inherently meant to discriminate against Black communities. You can nip that all in the butt day one if you pass this bill that you were talking about.
It's going to be interesting, but I got hope.
Yeah.
How do you feel moving forward with this presidency, despite or in spite of what has happened? I mean, this was supposed to be a year of excitement. 2020 was such a detriment to all of us, and with COVID happening and everything, and everyone was really gung-ho and really looking forward to 2021 in a way that seemed like they would forget about everything that has happened before in the past. So I'm just saying, moving forward, how do you feel about it?
I'm optimistic. Like, again, getting rid of Trump, January 21st to me is like is like 1776 July freaking 4th or whatever the hell we celebrate. It's gonna be new. It's just once he's gone, the calm is just gonna let things slowly get back into place. If he fast tracks his vaccine stuff, we're just gonna get back to some semblance of normalcy with our eyes wide open. So I'm super optimistic about what's coming in 2 weeks.
My views on this administration, I feel like I'm more optimistic from the perspective that there is no career aspirations after the fact for Joe Biden.
Good point.
And I think the good thing about that is that this is the culmination of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what he's been building up towards. And the fact that he has chosen not to run for office after this term is up, reflects that he's more about getting the job done this time around than the after. And so I think, that's a good sign that number one, he'll be dedicated towards putting the right people in positions to make decisions in different departments. And number two, accomplishing the things that he's saying that will be his priorities going in. You know what I mean? And really,
let me ask you this. Lee, you think he leaves early and allow Kamala to step in?
No, but I think you'll see one of the few times in the modern history where the president heavily defers to the opinions of his vice president.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think we'll see that much more this presidency than we've seen it in any of the modern presidents. I think he'll heavily leverage Kamala's advice on a lot of decisions, and I think in ways that may set her up for a run in 4 years.
This year, I will be very, very hopeful, and I just want to see things advance definitely for our community, and definitely just for America as a whole. Because we live here. We want things to be better for everyone.